So we're here with Jeffrey Lyons and Alison Bailes, movie critics, to talk about the upcoming Oscars.
Hey.
Hello.
Hi.
Good morning. Thanks for coming by.
Thanks for having us.
So let's start with the sure thing. What do we think is definitely going to take home the award?
King's Speech. King's Speech for Best Picture, Best Actor, possibly Best Director. That one is up for grabs, I guess. I think Best Score, and I think maybe Best Editing. So I'm saying about 5 or 6 for King's Speech.
They'll sweep the night.
Not a landslide, though, because it's been nominated for 12.
Right.
So it's not a landslide. And the rest of the awards are going to be scattered here and there. So there's not really going to be a strong second place.
I thought you were going to say, let's start with the short films, and I panicked because nobody on the planet gets to see those, even though they're very good. See, of course you do. Oh, yeah, sure. I think The King's Speech is going to take all the major ones. It's a great film. I've seen it 4 times, and I've never felt that way about many of the nominated films, to see them more than once, maybe twice. It's just a life-changing experience to see this movie, which tells a great human story about a person who was a king, never dealt with the real world, and was as fearful of a microphone as going into combat. And it was a little-known story that the royal family had suppressed for years and years, and finally it's come out. And what's interesting is about the King's Speech, they say that Winston Churchill wrote the King's famous speech calling his countrymen to war in 1939, but didn't realize there were certain words that people who have a stammer would have trouble with. So you see in the movie how Lionel Lone, the teacher, played by Geoffrey Rush, and the King of England go through the speech word by word and try to make it easier for him, and what a challenge it was, and how fearful he was, and what a courageous act it was to go on live radio all over the world to rally his countrymen to war.
Do we know the kind of training that Colin Firth went through and prep work before this film?
I know he studied some movies of the King. There aren't many of him speaking. And when you're an actor like Colin Firth, you can handle anything. And boy, does he look great in a suit. Did you see those $10,000 suits? You know, there's a tracking shot of him when he's about to give his big speech that I thought made it visible to the viewer of the challenge that awaited him when he made this most important speech. It wasn't just a speech at the beginning of the movie. We see him giving a speech at some derby, or as you call it, a derby. The 2,000 people.
I think it was Wembley.
Was it? Was it Wembley? Okay, all right. Well, when she talks about this movie, I'm lost.
I'd like to know, are you this passionate about the King's
No,
Speech?
she's English.
I'm very passionate about it. I mean, it's interesting because I do know people who dismiss it and they think it's just a sort of masterpiece theater and it's not that great. No, I'm passionate about it. I unfortunately only saw it twice. That makes me half the passionate critic of Jeffrey. But no, I think it's stirring and it's funny and it's human. It's a human story. It's not really about a king. It's about a man who doesn't want to be king.
Let's talk about The Social Network, because for a while before The King's Speech, everyone thought, oh, this movie is walking away with lots of Oscars.
Well, how do you make the creation of a website into a fascinating movie? Well, you have a great screenplay, and that might win, and you have a fine director, and you have an actor who was born to play the role, much the same way that Colin Firth was, but is a totally different kind of actor. I can't think of anybody besides Jesse Eisenberg to play the role of Mark Zuckerberg. And even if you don't own a computer, you get the idea that it wasn't just a genius at work, but all this controversy behind it was handled so well. There's one scene that I hope usually on Oscar night, they show you scenes you've never seen before on TV. But one of my favorite scenes is at the deposition when he's facing his former associate, and the lawyer says, do we have your attention? And he says, you have as much of my attention as you deserve. And something like, it's just a brilliant scene. It's so well written. You get so involved in it. And I'll tell you, I remember seeing the movie and then going on Facebook that day or something and never really feeling quite the same way about Facebook.
I felt the same way after the movie.
Can't they redesign Facebook, though? What happened? They redesigned it, and I can't figure it out.
And
then
memo
get Mark
to Mr. Zuckerberg,
onto
please.
that. Yeah.
And I'll tell you something. I lived in Spain as a boy in the summers, and we lost track with the family I lived with. And last summer, we were going back to Spain, and I found them after 20 years of searching for them on Facebook. And we had this reunion.
You know, we just had somebody here who reunited with his daughter after 11 years on Twitter.
Yeah, I saw that, a homeless guy. So I just found it an amazing movie. And if it weren't for The King's Speech, it would win all the awards.
Let's talk about Christian Bale. He did a great job at kind of embodying that character. You loved to hate him, you hated to love him. What do you think?
I think he was amazing, and you forget that you're watching a man who's bulked up and muscular when he plays Batman. He looks scarily drug addicty, but without overplaying it. And to me, when I think of the film, I think of him. I don't know if that's a good thing. The film's called The Fighter. I think it's supposed to be Mark Wahlberg's character. But, you know, Dickie Eklund was a fighter too, so maybe the title could mean either of them. I think he steals the movie from everyone, even the other nominated actors. I just think you feel uncomfortable when he's on screen. And I worried for Mark Wahlberg's character every time he was on screen, because I was like, he's going to mess it all up for him. He was fantastic.
I was fooled twice by the nominated films this year. One, when I went to see The Social Network, I didn't realize that they weren't twins. That Armie Hammer was playing both roles.
We just talked about that.
And my wife, who was the smartest person I know, didn't realize that was Christian Bale when she saw the movie, because he's done this before. He lost 45. The Machinist.
65 pounds.
And
for the Machinist.
De Niro used to, when you're a young actor, you can do that. De Niro used to do that too. But it's an amazing performance without stealing the movie, without dominating the movie, but
I
doing.
think he does steal the movie.
Well, I think he did. Well, if you do it because it was a great performance. Really. You do it for a great performance, not because he was in any way a ham. So I thought it was a great performance, and I think he'll go home with the award.
What about the hosts? We were just talking about Anne Hathaway and James Franco. What do you think that these actors, let alone a nominated actor, are going to be hosting these shows?
I think it's a weird choice, frankly. Well, you know,
look at our chemistry. We could do it. We could do it.
I think, first of all, to have a nominated actor in one of the main categories, I think is very strange. Right. And I think not that it's unethical in any way, but it's just definitely.
Queasy.
So what is he going to do? Go sit down when they announce his name?
I don't think I'm not old school in the things I do, but I think nominees should not be presenters because it allows another actor to get face time. And I know exactly what Alison is saying, but I say give them a chance. I know it'll be very well written, and we'll see. You know, Bob Hope hosted it 18 times, and Johnny Carson hosted it, but they're not, particularly Carson, who was a great host, not a movie person. And I think it's going to be interesting. They're trying to get a younger audience. Let's see how they do. If it doesn't work, they'll go back to another formula.
I think, though, that you need, let's face it, a lot of the writing on the Oscars and these award shows is hokey and kind of corny, and it needs someone to really bring out the best in the writing. I think Steve Martin and Alec Baldwin last year were fantastic, but they're both amazing comedians as well as being great actors. I just don't think that Anne Hathaway and James Franco have the chops to take what's written for them and make it excel. But I know they're going to sing and dance, which I think will be fun.
Anne Hathaway did one of the best bits I've ever seen on Saturday Night Live a few weeks ago, where she goes in to meet the king and the queen and Prince Philip, and with Fred Armisen as the queen. And as soon as the prince leaves her grandson leaves the room, the queen starts talking like this from like Dickensian and Cockney. Right? How am I doing? Okay.
No comment.
In any event, let's see what they do. You know, Bob Hope hosted it 18 times. And maybe it's a breath of fresh air. What the producers did was they went back to all the old Oscar telecasts from 1953 on, and they wanted to see what good things they could take out of it and what bad things they would not do. It used to be hosted in New York and L.A. at the same time, if you can believe that. And I don't like the fact that they're going to have the 5 songs again sung as individual numbers. That's the time when you can go up and get something to eat. I don't want to. We have the Grammys. They used to do it in a montage, and I'm going to miss seeing the previous winners in a category.
Will you be at the Oscars?
No, I used to go and I wanted to go and see the performance, not necessarily sit with my colleagues. I didn't fly 3,000 miles to watch it on TV. And when they know you're from New York, I wouldn't say they put you up high, but I was the only person there without a harp, and my usher was a Sherpa guide. And when Telly Savalas came out to sing a song, you can't heckle, and you want to, you're desperate to. So I like to sit around and sweat clothes and just be completely to go and see somebody else get rich and famous and get dressed up is not what I want to do.
What about you, Alison?
I've been, but as a reporter, so I've been, with the hoi polloi outside on the bleachers and the screaming crowds. And it's not something I really want to do again.
I'll be on my couch with a glass of wine and popcorn, too.
These people who wait there overnight have just come from Elvis's grave, and they've come all the way out there. And then when you pull up in your rented Plymouth Vega and get out and have the valet take your car, an owl convention takes over. Who?
Yeah.
So
and then followed by no one.
Yeah,
no
right.
one.
Exactly, exactly. So it's work, Oscar night. It really is.
And it's hot. They get you on those bleachers at like 2 in the afternoon in the
feel
baking
like a head waiter
sun.
getting
it's
dressed
no
at
fun.
2 in the afternoon. afternoon.
Well, we'll all be watching from home and enjoying ourselves.
Definitely.
Thank you so much for coming by. You guys are always so much fun. Enjoy the show on Sunday.
I didn't know about your acting chops. Good for you.
I know.
Good
Thank
for you.
you.
You know whereof you speak.
Good seeing you. Bye-bye.